Thanks for joining us for the March Vault webinar. My name is Shannon, and with me today we have Amanda and Blakely. During this three-part webinar, we're focusing on budgets, billing, and tax filing. As a reminder, this is a general overview, so some of the tools within Vault are not available to all chapters. If something is not available to you, we do recommend you reach out to operations support or your national headquarters. All right, so for part one of this webinar, I'll review building a good budget, how you can enter that in Vault, and demonstrate how budget details flow into accounting reports. Amanda will review billing and the billing setup tool, and Blakely will wrap us up with tax filing. As always, we welcome any questions along the way, so please feel free to ask away, but let's keep those questions general. Any specific questions to your chapter or how your organization uses a tool should be directed to operations support or your organization. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll just speak generally here for a few moments. So creating a budget is an important step in setting your chapter up for financial success. One of the most important steps in building a successful budget is to adopt budget policies. These policies help develop a hierarchy of who, what, and when, and ensures consistency from officer to officer. Some examples of budget policies are who builds the budget, what time period will the budget cover, who will review and approve the budget, when will the budget be completed, and when is it communicated to the chapter. So once you've established these basic policies of who and when, you can begin building your budget. So let's start with your expenses. A great starting point for budgeting expenses is to identify your fixed versus your flexible expenses. Your fixed expenses are going to be required, so rent, meal, national dues, insurance. And then your flexible expenses are based on what you use, so formal, apparel, social. Once you've identified your fixed and flexible expenses, you're ready to begin creating your expense budget. So to create your budget, you'll want to review the previous year's expenses for an idea of what to expect. This will be easier for groups that have maintained budget versus actual reporting or have an organized file system for invoices. If you have access to view bank statements, you can get an idea of purchases over the last 12 months. And if your chapter traditionally uses bill pay for expenses, we have all that historical data right here in Vault for you. If you don't have access to the kind of reporting that would make for forecasting expenses easy, make it a mission to lay the foundation for officers that come after you. Once you've reviewed your previous year's expenses, you'll want to input your fixed cost. So those are the items that are going to be required. And the final step is to review and add priority flexible expenses, then committee and officer budgets that are requested. Now that you know exactly how much the chapter will pay out in expenses, it's time to budget the chapter's income to cover those expenses. For income budgeting, first you'll want to ensure you've accounted for fixed and flexible expenses, savings, and any contingency plans. Then make sure you're billing enough to cover your chapter's expenses and adjust fees to chapter dues, rent, meal plans, and national dues as needed. Adjustments to expenses may be necessary if an increase to chapter dues is not an option. If your chapter is unable to increase chapter dues, you'll need to review those flexible expenses and make cuts as needed. Next, you're going to want to review chapter policies and bylaws for items such as late fees, fines, and early payment discounts, and then determine how those policies can affect member payments. Do not rely on that income and any money received from that should be considered bonus funds, and don't account for it in your projected income. Once you've determined your income and expenses, you're ready to enter your budget details into Vault. OmegaFi's budget tool makes creating and maintaining a budget easy and incorporates your budget into accounting for reports to save you time. So we're going to pause for a second and I'm going to switch to Vault. All right, so to create a new budget in Vault, you're going to go to the accounting menu, and then under accounting tools, you'll select budgets. And then to add a new budget, select add chapter budget. The first part is the budget detail. So the budget type allows you to create a new budget from scratch, or you can create a budget from a previous period. If available, you can select a national template for the academic year in which you're creating your budget for, and this will help include your national dues and fees charges. The budget name allows you to give your budget an intuitive name. We do recommend including the term and year for clarity. The accounting method is set to your organization's accounting type for your 990 reporting purposes. This will either be cash or accrual. And the begin date should be the start of your organization's fiscal year, and the end date should be the end date for your organization's fiscal year. And then last, any budget note allows you to enter any relevant notes related to your budget. So once that's all filled out, go ahead and click Save and Continue and move to the next step. Budget groups is a function that allows the chapters to separate individual committee budgets or group income and expenses based on their type. For example, you may have a budget group for housing, recruitment, social, operating, national dues and fees, etc. Budget groups can be changed at any time in Vault under the accounting menu and then budget groups. Just a side note, setting up budget groups may not be appropriate for all chapters, so this step is optional and may be bypassed by clicking the Next Step button in the bottom right-hand corner. The last part of step 1 is the questionnaire. Your answers submitted on the questionnaire tell the budget tool which national dues and fees charges apply to your chapter if you're building a budget using a national template. All right, now you're ready to enter all of your expenses. If you're using a national template, the national budget notes will display at the top of the page as a guide while setting up the chapter's expenses. If you created budget groups, the expense accounts are organized under the budget group they are assigned to. If an expense account is not assigned to a budget group, it will show under uncategorized. Select See More to see sales for all months and enter your expenses according to the month you expect the chapter will pay the expense. If multiple months are selected, you'll need to divide the amount by the total number of months. For example, if the total amount of the expense is $25, but it will be paid in September and December, you'll enter $12.50 in September and $12.50 in December to give you a total of $25. Once all expenses have been entered, click Continue to the next step in the bottom right-hand corner. You'll follow the same steps to enter all projected income. Once all your income has been entered, click Continue to next step in the bottom right-hand corner. The final step in entering the chapter's budget is to review all income and expenses entered for accuracy. You can click See More and See Less toggles to review each account code, and you can click the budget amount for each account code to view each line item included under that account code. It's important to ensure your income is at least equal to your expenses so the chapter does not run into deficit for the year. Your net income should always be in black and never in the red. From this page, you can also add or edit budget notes, download various budget reports. You can also use the blue navigation bar at the top to go back to previous pages at any time while creating your budget. Just click on the step you want to go back to. The step shaded in dark blue indicates the step that you're currently on. Click Save and Complete whenever you're finished creating your chapter's budget. Your budget now lives in Vault and can be viewed and revised as needed by any Vault user with access to the accounting menu. Once the chapter's budget has been created, the budget will interact with the accounting reports under the accounting menu in Vault. Using the income statement to view the budget versus actual report will help the chapter track their actual income and expenses versus what was budgeted for the year. The income statement provides transparency of the chapter's finances and insight into budget adjustments that need to occur. The income statement also provides a budget performance report that is a helpful tool when preparing next year's budget. So that wraps up the budget portion of the webinar. I'll take a few seconds to check out any questions before I pass it over to Amanda. All right, so somebody asked a great question. When entering the budget, can one just enter the total amount instead of choosing various months? Yes, we actually do recommend you just enter the total amount in the first month of the fiscal year, so your variance reporting here is more accurate. If you're entering it in separate months throughout the year, it's not going to account for that income or that expense until the month happens, until we're in that month. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and go ahead and pass it to Amanda. So give us just a minute while we transition.
Thank you, Shannon. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to show you the billing overview tab and the billing cycle setup tool, which allows you to set up your chapter's billing each semester. This will allow you time to go ahead and get your summer and fall billing set up. Like Shannon said, feel free to ask general questions. If you have specific questions concerning your chapter, reach out to your operations support team. To begin, we'll click on the Billing tab and go to Billing Overview. There are 4 sections on the Billing Overview tab: Billing Cycles, Scheduled Charges, Billing Options, and Billing Summary. The Billing Overview displays scheduled charges for a particular term according to cycle, billing type, transaction description, and account. The first section, Billing Cycles, displays the cycle's name and year, the specific cycle, important dates, and if late fees apply. The bill on date is the date that charges assessed to member accounts. The charges are pending and editable. The statement on date is the day statements generate and we mail to members. The due date is the date payment is due. And the late after date is the last day a member can make a payment before their balance ages and the system assesses a late fee to their account. These dates can also be seen under the Billing Dates tab as well. Scheduled Charges displays a breakdown of the billing cycles by billing group. Each billing group shows a breakdown of charges per description, income account, and the dollar amount for each cycle. You can click Edit Charges to add or edit charges for each particular billing group. Make sure each member is assigned to the correct billing group. Billing groups are groups of members with like billing. Each member receives a billing group in accordance with their appropriate billing. Administrators can update billing groups by going to Billing and Update Billing Groups. Each of the sections highlighted in blue represent a billing group. You can categorize members with like charges into each of these groups. In the next step, I will show you how to edit billing groups. As was mentioned when going over how to budget, make sure your scheduled charges are enough for your budget. Under the Billing Options section, it displays your chapter's current late fee and prepayment discount settings. We recommend late fees as an incentive for on-time payment and prepayment discounts as an incentive for early payment. You can contact your support team if you have questions or you need to change your settings. The Billing Summary displays a summary of your chapter's billing for the current term by billing group, transaction description, and income account. The billing group and transaction description show a further breakdown of charges per cycle. Now we're going to move on to the Billing Cycle Setup tool, but please note this is a general overview. Some chapters do not have access to this tool and some have limited access. If you have specific questions regarding your chapter, you can contact your operations support team. In order to set up billing, follow these steps. Once you're on the Billing Overview tab, click Set Up Billing. You will then enter both the term and the year, and you will then select the first due date, and you will decide how many days after the late date will be. If late fee and prepayment discount changes are needed, again, contact your support team. Then you will click Next, and you'll select the term from which you wish to copy charges. All billing cycles are copied from a previous term and can then be edited. Each billing group is listed with copied charges. Each group has an option to edit the name of the group, add notes to the group, and edit the charges in the group. You can select Edit Charges to edit descriptions, income accounts, sorry. You can edit the name of the group, the income account, as well as the amounts. During this step, ensure that requirements for international headquarters are met. If unsure, you can reach out to your support team. Review all billing information before approving the setup and then click the Save button. To make sure your members are being billed correctly, check the Update Billing Group and Update Billing Status page. Once you're done, you can click Next, and you will review and approve to make sure that it's complete. Then you can click Save and Complete in the bottom right-hand corner. Again, billing groups are members grouped together who have the same charge. You can update a member to a different billing group as needed under the Update Billing Group tab. You can also update members' billing status from the Update Billing Status tab. This is where you mark a member active or inactive for billing. Their billing status is not the same as their member status. Their member status is what your headquarters has, such as new member, initiate, or alumni. Billing status is if a member being actively billed or not. They're either active or inactive. If they are inactive, they will not receive new charges automatically. Active members, they will receive new charges automatically based on billing group. It's important to note, as long as a member has a balance, we will continue to send them statements, even if their billing status is inactive. You can also use our help center that can help you with any billing questions. And that is all for the billing portion. I'll look to see if there are any questions, and if not, then I will pass it on to Blakely.
So for each year, your organization is responsible for filing a 990 tax return with the IRS. This is just to maintain your organization's tax exempt status. So Vault helps simplify the process for you, and our dedicated accountant will take care of the filing for your completed return. Your tax filing deadline is going to depend on your organization's fiscal year. For instance, your organization might follow a calendar year, meaning that your fiscal year ends on December 31st. If that's the case, then your Form 990 deadline would be May 15th. However, many organizations have fiscal years that start mid-calendar year, and those organizations have different deadlines as well. As an example, if your fiscal year begins in June and then ends in July, the Form 990 filing deadline would be October 15th. If the deadline is coming up and you're not prepared to file your 990 return, for any reason, we can request an extension on your behalf, and your due date would be postponed by 6 months. Our tax specialist is actually currently following up with chapters who have an extended return deadline soon. So please make sure that you are looking out for emails from Beth at OmegaFi or 990 at OmegaFi.com. Vault is here to help make filing your 990 tax returns a breeze. So to provide the information that we need to process your return, you'll submit a 990 report on Vault. We're going to take a look at how to do that together. So first, you're going to go to the Accounting tab, and then under Accounting Tools, just select Tax Filing, which is going to take you here to a list of all past 990 reports that you've submitted through Vault. So to start a new report, you'll just select Add 990 Report. Then we're going to be on the beginning of the questionnaire. So first, we're going to confirm your report dates. It'll have the current fiscal year start and end date listed for you, and your 990 report start date should correspond to the fiscal year start date, and your end date should correspond to the fiscal year end date as well. The accounting type is going to default to the method that we have on record for your organization. If the method shown differs from what was specified on previous returns, you can contact 990@OmegaFi.com for more assistance. Once you've confirmed that everything looks good here, you're just going to click Save and Continue and move on to the report information. So to complete the 990 questionnaire, you'll list any other names that you do business as, or a DBA name. If your organization was terminated or went out of business, in case of Greek organization, this would be something like, if the chapter was fully suspended in the last year, you'll say yes or no. You'll answer whether or not your gross receipts are normally less than $50,000. And then you'll enter your organization's mailing address. I will make a quick note for you that your organization's mailing address should be a permanent address, not the personal address of your officers. So we do recommend using a PO box for your permanent address so that you can maintain consistency as those officers transition. Once you've got your mailing address in there, you'll list the name and address of one of your organization's principal officers. Ideally, this should be the chapter president, but it can also be another elected chapter officer with decision-making power. So the form is typically signed by your chapter's treasurer, their VP of finance, or whatever your organization's equivalent of that role is, but this can vary. However, it should be signed by an elected chapter officer, not an advisor or an alum. Question 7 is, has a 990 or 990N been filed for your chapter in the past? If you're unsure of whether or not your chapter has previously filed a 990, the first place that you can check is that bulk tax filing page. So just as a reminder, you'll go to Accounting, Accounting Tools, and then Tax Filings. You'll see a list of all past 990 reports. And if you click on the paperclip icon in the Actions column, you'll see documents that are attached to that 990 report for the year. So if you look under completed documents, you should see a return PDF if one has been filed for you. If there are no 990 reports on the Vault tax filing page, that means that OmegaFi has not filed returns for your chapter in the past. If this is the case, then you're going to need to go search the IRS website for this information. You can search by your employer identification number or EIN, or you can look up your organization name and filter it by your location. Once you find your organization, you should be able to see any recent returns that have been filed. So once you've determined if your chapter has previously filed a 990 report, you're then going to enter your chapter's federal tax ID. Again, that's the employer identification number or EIN. And you're going to enter that twice just to verify that we have that correct. Once you've got that in, you'll go ahead and click Save and Continue. Oh, I'm sorry. And also, if it's applicable, you'll enter your chapter's group exemption number if you guys file as a group. Then you're going to be given an estimated filing cost based on the information that you just provided. So you'll just quickly review this page. If everything looks good, you'll click Continue. And then you're going to see an engagement letter, and that's going to pull in the signing officer's information here at the bottom for you. This letter just lays out the service expectations between you and OmegaFi for tax filing. So once you've reviewed this, everything looks good. You'll click Authorize. And congratulations, you've entered all of the necessary information to get your tax returns submitted and begin that preparation. So once you're ready to submit that return to OmegaFi, just go ahead and click that Submit 990 Report button. And it'll go to our team, and then our dedicated accountant would reach out to you at that point with any questions and to kind of get things moving along.
So I do just want to make sure that we note that if you think that you've submitted the report and you get back to this tax filing page and you see that the status is pending, that means that there is some section that you haven't completed in the report. That may be that you didn't fully click to authorize the letter, or didn't click through to submit your report. So if that's the case, if you see that pending status, make sure that you click on the Edit button under the Actions tab, which is going to be that little pencil icon over here, and that you just go back through and make sure that you've got everything submitted. Once everything is properly submitted, you should see a notification that it was submitted by, and then your name would be here.
I will just take a moment to note that some organizations file group tax returns. So if that's the case, then you may not see the option to file your 990 through Vault. If you don't see that as an option, do make sure that, if you don't see that as an option and you have questions about what your tax filing responsibilities are for your organization, just go ahead and contact your headquarters for additional information and to make sure that you guys are all on the same page. I'm going to pause now and just check out and see if we have any questions. Okay, and I don't see that we have any questions, so we are going to wrap this up today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us today and to go over all of this. I will just let you know that the recording should be sent out either tomorrow or early next week to anybody who registered for this event. And then, like always, the recording will also be uploaded to our YouTube page and to our help center. Again, thanks so much for joining us, guys. Have a good one.